Hello, and welcome to another episode of Brett Kaz's Movie and TV Talk. So we're going to be talking about the controversy related to voice acting that is surrounding the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Netflix show. Now, before we get into that article, it mentions, unionized things and Screen Actors Guild, and so what I wanted to do was quickly go over the purpose of the Screen Actors Guild. And so you see up here, it says that the members are top professionals in their fields, united in a belief in standard working conditions, compensations, and benefits. And then down here, members are entitled to a variety of benefits, including contracts, collective bargaining, eligibility for the Screen Actors Guild Health Plan, producer pension plan, retirement fund, actor online casting database, and more. Maybe we'll see what more has to offer. Okay, never mind that. That was just too slow. So anyway, the Screen Actors Guild just is basically like a union for actors and voice actors and all of that. So now we are here with Screen Rant and their article on the Transformers War for Cybertron Netflix controversy explained. So let's see. Disappointed fans with controversial casting decisions, namely hiring non-union talent. War for Cybertron trilogy kicked off last month. Blah 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 blah. Stuff about the show. Fans noticed something a little off in the series. It featured a slate of relatively unknown voice actors. That is true. I, for one, noticed that. Peter Cullen and Frank Walker are nowhere to be found, replaced by non-union voice talent. And then we get into the good stuff here about Peter Cullen denouncing, for his part, Netflix's decision to use non-unionized actors. He's obviously the voice of Optimus Prime on and off since 1984. So here it is. Warns that Netflix is hiring only the cheap, non-union voice talent sets a dangerous precedent for the industry, which is heavily regulated by the Screen Actors Guild, which is what we just looked at, to ensure fair pay and working conditions, which I just talked about that. And they also mentioned that Peter Cullen isn't saying this just because he didn't get to be a part of the show and didn't get a paycheck, but he's actually looking out for fellow actors. It goes into that Transformers haven't always used the same voice cast. Obviously, that's true. But the issue for Peter Cullen has nothing to do with ability, and this is not to say that the cast of War for Cybertron is devoid of talent. That's true. Jetfire was a standout. Whoever they got to voice Jetfire was amazing. And Elita 1 was really great too. Megatron was actually pretty decent as well. And this was one of my critiques of the show, Optimus Prime and Starscream are just impersonations of better actors. It seems unlikely that this is a misstep, obviously, that Netflix doesn't have any interest in correcting this, which they won't, as the sequel to Siege, Earthrise, is already in production, which it is. And the inclusion of quality voice actors doesn't always equal quality. The Prime Wars trilogy featured Cullen and Welker, as well as other A-list talent like Mark Hamill and Ron Perlman. and it wasn't universally well. That is true. That wasn't the voice actor's fault. Although Combiner Wars didn't have Peter Cullen or Frank Welker, but then they fixed that. But yeah, Prime Wars Trilogy was kind of just meh. Cullen's point of contention could potentially mean we've heard the last of his Optimus Prime and Welker's Megatron, which would be like firing Mel Blanc, the voice of Bugs, from being the voice of Bugs Bunny if he were still alive. Yeah. Hopefully Hasbro realizes that the War for Cybertron casting decision was an error and that the franchise shouldn't move on from its classic actors just yet. That is true. Obviously, you know, when you think of Optimus Prime, and obviously this was a precedent set also by the movies, you think of Peter Cullen, you know. Megatron can, you know, I've seen people do pretty decent Megatrons outside of Frank Welker. That's not to say that Frank Welker isn't a good Megatron. Obviously he is, but it's like Optimus Prime, that classic Peter Cullen Optimus Prime is a lot harder to pull off in my view than Megatron is. Now, if they were to bring in Peter Cullen and Frank Welker for Optimus and Megatron, that would be great. It would just be another noticeable difference, like it was going from Combiner Wars to Titan's Return in the Power of the Prime series. So, this is interesting. I did not know about this until today. And I think that, you know, Netflix and them don't realize that they probably could get in a lot of trouble for using non-unionized voice actors in their show. And, you know, they're just doing it just to save a few bucks, but, you know, what's more important, saving a few dollars or doing things the right way so you don't get in trouble? And I know Netflix is a pretty big company, but they can still get in trouble. And, you know, it says right here, too, a few other voice actors would emerge over the years as the various Transformers characters, but they were always unionized talent, thus avoiding any legitimate criticisms on that front, and more often than not, they actually included either Cullen or Welker in their usual roles. Now, that brings up to me a question with the Prime Wars trilogy actually featured a lot of just YouTubers. Like they had MatPat voice Computron. I'm sorry, but I don't think MatPat, he's the guy that does, game theory and the movie theory, cinema theory, whatever he calls it. Film theory, God. But I don't think he's unionized. Either way, it is quite interesting that Netflix would go that route. And like it says, I doubt they're going to change it. With Earthrise already being in production, they're probably going to continue on with the voice actors they picked, which kind of sucks in my view because Optimus Prime's voice is kind of unbearable after a while. And I don't really want more of whoever they picked. Well, they picked Starscream. I didn't think Starscream was bad. It is an impersonation of the better actor, but, you know, Starscream's voice was not as annoying as Optimus Prime's voice in the show, so it's interesting to see where this will lead. Again, I don't think it's going to change anything, but oh well. And that's it. So, if you want to comment on this, put a comment below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.